America, a country awash in corporate icons, driven by a craving for convenience and big box bargains. But now, voices across the nation speak of a change of heart.
Someday there isn't going to be this, it's going to be all corporate America. No one's going to know what mom and pop is like. No one's going to know what customer service is like. It's just all going to be one big square box.
I think of it as the real place versus the sort of facade place. The place that springs up, that is kind of faceless, that looks the same in every city, inside and outside, that you could wake up in one, you'd have no clue, were you in Texas or Iowa or wherever.
When I came here, there was 2 stores open. There was about almost 2,000 people here. There's 600 people here now. All the business closed up. The retail market there, the grocery stores closed up.
Over the last decade, 11,000 independent pharmacies shut down, as did 40% of the nation's independent bookstores. 100 chain restaurants capture nearly half of the average American's budget when they dine out. And as manufacturing flees overseas, corporate chain retail is the only economic lifeblood left in many towns.
Let's see, we lost GE, Chicago Pneumatic Tool, we lost Bendix, we lost the base. We have a Walmart in Rome, we have a Walmart in New Hartford, we have a Walmart in North Utica. We had 3 Walmarts.
After 9/11 and the war in Iraq, a growing mistrust of powerful institutions has made a political act even out of shopping.
We started because of the war, and we said we don't have a vote up there. They're going to do whatever they want to do. Our real vote today in America is with our dollars.
Lights. Camera.
Action!
Hanson Hussein and Heather Hughes are packing up what it takes to shoot a television documentary. 52 days on the road in the USA to find independent America.
We're 2 former journalists. Hanson is an award-winning international reporter accustomed to covering wars and disasters. I was a television news anchor. We've been married for 4 years. And now we're setting out on a road trip across the United States to identify communities where mom and pop are taking on big box America, and to find out why. We will abide by 2 rules. 1, we can only do business with independent mom and pop retailers. No McDonald's, no Best Westerns, no Walmarts. 2, we must steer clear of all interstate superhighways. Instead, we can only travel on secondary roads, which will force us to slow down as we seek out a different kind of America, far away from the easy access of 4 lanes and Anytown, USA.
You can't beat the old secondary highways. If you want to see how American people live and to realize everybody's a lot friendlier, it's a slower pace.
But the Heartland is stirring as a staging ground for a movement against the corporate retail machine that has taken over its communities.
People are beginning to see the hidden price. There's the price on the tag, and then there's a much bigger sticker.
Walmart descended upon our town and basically bought the election.
It was offensive to me that they were coming in across the street, and I wanted to see if there was something I could do about it.
It's definitely caused a lot of animosity in the community. They've been vandalized on multiple occasions.
But it's not a war of blue state against red. As we'll discover, America's struggle with how it does business crosses party lines.
I'm a true American. I love my country, but I fear what Walmart will do for me and my community.
A lot of people don't understand how I can be anti-corporate chain and also Republican at the same time.
This isn't a left or right issue. This is a community issue.
When you're not beholden to a large corporation or centralized power like a government, then you're really free to live the kind of life that you want.
An American life unchained by corporate retail.
Local is a way right now of people taking back control. In a world that seems out of control, they at least know they can choose a locally owned business, they can talk to the owner, they can learn more about what they're bringing into their home, about what kind of food that they're eating, and that it's become very, very important to folks to feel some authenticity to life, something real.
Start with the hair salon, and then you
Women like to get the nails done while they're waiting on the car, getting the oil change. You have the deli and McDonald's here for the kids. We have a gift registry here. If you want to even go over to apparel and go ahead and buy some clothes, you can just do that and make an appointment and have your pictures taken in the portrait studio. And on the way out, I guess you could buy your groceries. And so this is the place you need to come.
But Walmart didn't start out as the planet's retail overlord. That was only after it had mastered one-stop shopping at cutthroat prices. The so-called Beast of Bentonville and the 2 other corporate chains we've decided to look at all began as a single mom-and-pop store somewhere. And those mom-and-pops managed to live the American dream.
And Starbucks at one point was probably a small little coffee shop downtown that had a successful model, and they've grown it to something that many people either envy or they despise.
This is the former location of the flagship Borders store.
Borders now dominates the national retail book market with over 1,000 locations, bolstered by its online partner, Amazon.com. Starbucks has nearly 7,000 coffee shops across the country, with 1,300 more by 2007. In some cities, you'll find several at one single intersection. And Walmart, the world's largest retailer, America's richest corporation, keeps growing with close to 4,000 stores and 4,000 more by 2010. These 3 companies started as mom and pop, but now the fear is their immense market power and overwhelming convenience could destroy the local fabric of communities across America. Even as many people begin to realize there could be a high price to pay for those cheap prices they've grown so accustomed to.
People consider it almost a moral imperative to shop at Walmart for their family because they want to get the best deal. I would never want my child to think that I'm saving 73 cents, that I'm that short-sighted, sacrificing her future community, her future environment.
It's a lifestyle that we embraced as we left our big city jobs in New York and Tel Aviv for this. A small-town life and friendship with our neighborhood farmer.
It's not all red tomatoes. It's not all orange carrots. It's this beautiful array of colors and shapes and sizes and flavors.
You know, you can still feel the warmth of the dirt on the carrots when he brings them in, and you know, how can you beat that?
We've developed a love for mom and pop.
Staff here is all the same. The staff doesn't change. Everyone knows the staff here. It's not like you're gonna come back next week and there's gonna be a different person serving you. This is a mom and pop restaurant. And I'm Pop.
We can only hope that we'll make mom and pop's acquaintance across America as easily as we have in our hometown. The first day of our expedition brings us to Port Townsend, Washington. Population, 10,000. The local battle for independent America started with this: the Movies Plus video store, threatened by a corporate chain invader, Hollywood Video, the one they wanted to build right next door. This was a bold move by corporate America, and it inspired Fina and Sophie Pipia to try to stop it.
Why is it obnoxious?
Yeah, why is it obnoxious to you?
Because they're a giant national chain, and this is a local store that we all love and has been here for a really long time. And they obviously don't care at all. At all.
Laurel and Hardy, they're good too.
These young classic movie lovers convinced thousands of residents to sign a petition against the new Hollywood Video store. It failed. A few months after our visit, Movies Plus would shut its doors after 22 years of business. To avoid further damage to local businesses, the town decided to pass a temporary law to restrict any further corporate chains from moving in.
What we wanted to do was to try to see if we could maintain the character of the town, but ask everyone to design themselves intelligently.
We hear the ordinance was inspired by a similar law passed hundreds of miles further south in California. So that will be our next destination, as we try to find out what's driving this unusual insurgency against corporate chains.
We are, for the first night, unpacking all of our things. We'll be overnighting in different places every night. This time we actually were invited to stay in someone's house, which is really nice, but we still have to get the bags out of the car. So here we go. I guess I'll get your bag too.
Yeah. So then we're going to Operation Iraqi Freedom Hat, just to see if there's anybody we can provoke out here, but obviously nobody seems to be too worried about me shooting video in public places, dressed all in black, wearing an Operation Iraqi Freedom Hat, and unshaven.
It's only day 2, and we cross from Washington into Oregon. We've hit US 30, the tail end of the historic Oregon Trail.
This is downtown Astoria, the oldest settlement west of the Missouri River.
We found ourselves our independent motel.
We
Thank
did.
goodness.
That's
For a
really
good
nice.
price, which is even better.
Good price.
And it's called the Crest. And here we are. Not a bad room. $63, that's including tax. It's actually really dark. The view of the Columbia River. Apparently this is a historic site for the Lewis and Clark expedition, so we'll have to find out more about that tomorrow. And there's Miles relieving himself in the backyard. And once again, we go through the dance of unpacking.
Come on, I'm always unpacking.
Well, you can shoot if you like.
The next day, we take the world-famous Pacific Highway 101 along the coastline. Oregon has a national reputation for its fierce independence. But we're in such a hurry to get to California, there's no time to stop and talk to anyone. We won't make that same mistake a few weeks later in another fiercely independent state, Vermont.
The hamburger and the cheese is local, the lettuce is local, bread is local, sauerkraut is local. The lemon is not, but if we keep driving around in cars and things, it probably could be in another couple of decades.
In Arcata, California, buying local gives residents a feeling of security as gas prices rise and events half a world away threaten global supply lines.
Mad cow, you name the latest food or other scare, and people are starting to see, well, maybe this thing where my food's coming from across the country or across the world, there's some good and there's some bad in that.
Now, you'll notice in most stores, you'll see a little teeny section called organic. This is our little teeny conventional section. That's hilarious. And the rest is all organic. In our meat department, we have our beef grown for us. We have our own local chocolate factories. Our honeys are all local, Humboldt honey, the jams, the jellies. It's about putting the money back into the system. And also it's about eating what your neighbors make.
If we look down the road 10, 15, 20, 30 years and project what kind of world we're going to have, especially with the oil crisis and the energy crisis and the changes in kind of major global economy, it may be moms and pops that are the only things that are going to survive, because we won't be able to transport goods like we used to. It's going to be a whole different world. We're not going to be able to drive as we are today to the strip malls and whatever. It's going to be which communities can survive the crisis that's coming. And this is what we're planning for right here in Arcata.
Arcata was one of the first towns to clamp down on corporate chains with its formula restaurant ban a few years ago. Only 9 fast food chain restaurants at a time are allowed to operate in this eclectic college town. It's the kind of place where the police patrol the streets in super fuel-efficient smart cars, and where the law's architects frequently gather in a town center they've kept Starbucks free.
So people come up talking about being essentially refugees from other communities that have been blanded, have been dumbed down, have been turned into strip malls. And they walk into their old downtown and half of it's boarded up, and then they go out into the outskirts and it looks like every other town they've ever been in, with one big box, one big chain after another. So not only do you rob a community of its money, but you also rob it of its soul.
In Arcata's quest to provide for itself, its residents do business with each other. That's how most of small-town America used to survive. But even as we leave the nation's most populous state for one of its most remote, we see that Nevada's capital now relies heavily on the out-of-state corporate chains. Big box stores line the highway into town. But corporate retail tends to prefer easy access to a large number of customers, so they're nowhere to be found as we head east along US 50 into this sparsely populated end of the state. This scenic byway is affectionately known as the loneliest road, and it's the same trail the Pony Express riders traveled to deliver mail in the 1860s. Turning south down US 93, we discover the old Wild West town of Pioche. Population, 600. Far, far away from the creature comforts of corporate chains. yet increasingly reliant upon them.
You don't miss McDonald's and Walmart?
Not a bit. Oh, Walmart. Have to go once a month. But I make long lists.
And how far do you have to go for Walmart?
Well, it's almost 100 miles.
That's amazing. It's far.
How often do you do that?
Oh, probably at least once every 2 weeks, sometimes every week. It just depends. Sometimes we have to go to Vegas. It just depends on Vegas. It's a couple hundred miles away.
That's a long trip.
It is, yeah.
Would you like to see more in Pioche, or would you prefer it to stay the same?
I'd like to see some more mom and pop things, and not big, Walmart and stuff like that takes away from mom and pop.
From gasoline to Vaseline, this is the last surviving retailer in town. The others have closed down, unable to compete with the big boxes so many miles away.
Everybody's going to Utah, to Walmart, to Kmart and all those. And they don't care about it, the poor guy that's trying to make it. They come in the morning, they get $5 worth of gas, go to Utah because it's 25 cents cheaper over there. And so we've survived since we came here, and it's been good. But I'm a little embittered because of the outreach of those big companies.
And they're starting to see their friends and neighbors go out of business, and these are businesses that have been part of the fabric, just tightly woven into the fabric of the community, and suddenly it's gone, and there's no retrieving it.
30 years ago, the town of Seligman nearly died when its famous main street, Route 66, the Mother Road, was bypassed by Interstate 40. We tried to stick to the original 66 as much as possible as we drive east through Arizona. This was one of America's first paved national highways.
Here's old Route 66.
And the Delgadillo family was determined to preserve the area's proud heritage. So they set about to put this town of 456 back on the map by drawing tourists back to Route 66 with a snapshot of America of yesterday.
Ice cream, yes. Eins or twins? You can't get this at McDonald's. Ice cream.
Thank you.
Ice cream. Yeah, see? Look, you got it. Sell it for $1.40. I mean, what the heck? You know what? We're not a Burger King. You don't have it your way.
Mm-hmm.
You have it my way, or you don't have it at all. So here. Okay? From the tourists, way back in '88, when they start trickling in from the eastern part of the United States, the western part of the United States, from China, from Japan, from Holland, from Germany, from France, from Austria, they start coming into town and telling me, but Angel, when you let, as though if I could stop it, but I will try, when you let a McDonald's come in here, I won't have to come to Seligman. I don't want to come to Seligman anymore. I can see that in Germany. So the traveling public is looking for America of yesterday, mom and pop businesses, and Seligman is comprised of mom and pop businesses.
86 miles later, we arrive in Flagstaff, Arizona. This small city just fought a bitter referendum over a big box zoning law. Flagstaff made international headlines when Walmart paid for this full-page ad in the Arizona Sun, comparing the local government to Nazis for passing the law. Walmart already has 2 stores in Flagstaff, a 135,000 square foot Sam's Club warehouse, and this regular Walmart, which does not sell groceries. No one here had any problem with those businesses. But the City Council's new law would ban any new retail space over 125,000 square feet. Even more restrictions would apply if that retailer also wanted to sell groceries inside the same store. That's what got Walmart's attention. Its one-stop shopping supercenter stores devote nearly a third of their space to food. Property rights advocates said the law would interfere with the freedom to do business in Flagstaff. So with Walmart's money, they forced a referendum.
We contacted Walmart because we knew that they would have a stake in this, and they were gracious enough to step up to the plate and give us the funds that we would need to contact all the voters.
There was nobody trying to keep any national chain out. It was just people wanting to have some rules for their town, and people who elect a city council to do a job. And frankly, I'm offended that Walmart could come into Flagstaff and mess with our local politics this way.
They want to close the gate when someone comes to a community, And that's where you really start to have to get in, and you have to take almost an extreme to the other side to say, no, we are going to protect private property rights at any cost, just to make sure that the consumer and the owners of private property are always protected in the values that they have in their community.
It was frustrating to see them be able to come in and stir up our community this way and pit neighbor against neighbor in this nasty kind of battle that, frankly, this town just didn't need. And this is the Nazi book burning ad.
Basically accusing you of attacking the Constitution, attacking what America stands for. They're saying that if you oppose Walmart, you're anti-American, it sounds like.
Well, and attacking our local government, and all along we kept trying to remind the people of Flagstaff that our government is us.
And we ran an ad that offended just about everybody. We apologized. We have fired the agency that did the ad. The manager that was involved has resigned and left the business. We're just so sorry that it happened.
World's largest corporation coming in, spending $300,000, overwhelming the grassroots efforts of local citizens and effectively rewriting law that they dislike. And of course, they're able to use that power to overwhelm the will of citizens in many areas.
What happened in Flagstaff has repeated itself in towns across the country. As a ballot initiative funded by a powerful out-of-state corporation defeats the local big box restriction, but not by much here. With 17,000 votes cast, Walmart supporters won by a 365-vote margin. Heading north out of Flagstaff, we take in a bit of scenery with a quick stop at the magnificent Grand Canyon. Not far away, we're surprised to see how corporate chain fast food has even managed to make converts out of Native Americans here on the Hopi and Navajo reservation. We head for the red towers of Utah's Monument Valley, on our way to Durango, Colorado, where we've heard trouble's brewing over the newest coffee shop in town.
If people were to be picketing fair wages or better wages and better benefits, they'd be picketing my store, not Starbucks. They're able to pay a pretty good wage for the employment. They're able to give much better benefits than I'm able to give as a one-location independent store owner can do.
But that doesn't guarantee a warm welcome to Starbucks in downtown Durango, which has been vandalized several times since it set up shop on its main street.
I'm against Starbucks in the way that they work.
At some point, something does need to be done. We need to get together and say, do we want the downtown to change in this way, or do we want to stop it? And there are methods to stopping it.
And the ones that are vandalizing are the ones that are in a panic, probably. You know, are they young college students? Are they high school? Are they older political activists? It could be all of the above.
Yeah, I don't think they do that for most shops that open downtown. I think there's a real strong feeling that Starbucks shouldn't have opened here.
We moved to a small town to get away from the corporate structure, to get away from Walmart, which wasn't originally here when we moved here. It was nicely located in that 40 miles away, there was a Walmart, there was a Sam's Club, there was all that stuff if you needed it, but it wasn't here. And so I think we were just running. We were trying to escape a little bit, and you can only run so long.
They have a habit of saturating a town. They'll put a Starbucks in one place, if it works, they'll put another one in 4 blocks up. And I know that we couldn't survive in that situation.
Right. If they put another one in on the other end of Main, that would be the doom of all of us.
One thing you can count on virtually anywhere is being able to go in and find a cafe where locals congregate, where you can get a sense of that town's character. And it's still true today, but one thing you can count on virtually anywhere is being able to go in and find a cafe where locals congregate, where you can get a sense of that town's character. And it's still true today, but what happens?
We're amazed that Starbucks is generating so much animosity, even as the local Walmart supercenter blends nicely into the background. This store has become an economic magnet in the region, keeping shoppers closer to home.
What we were seeing before our Walmart opened was a large exodus on the weekends of locals going to Farmington to buy their goods. Walmart opens, and what it did is it stopped to a large degree that leakage. So we saw a positive economic impact because now we became a destination, much like Farmington was.
Once upon a time, only one city in the region had a big box store. So residents of nearby town A and Town B travel to that city on weekends to scoop up those corporate chain bargains. Their local economies both suffer from this leakage, and their sales tax income drops. Then Town A gets a big box store. That stops its leakage as residents stay home to shop, keeping their money in the economy. Plus, now Town B's residents don't have to travel as far and plug their own cash into Town A's economy. Town A's mom and pops even benefit. Town A's sales tax revenues increase. That new big box store in Town A is looking like a really smart idea. But big box corporations must continue to grow or they'll die. So Town B finally gets its own corporate chain store. Now everyone is staying home to shop. The big box stores have such cheap prices and efficient operations that they put their local independent competitors out of business. Town A's sales tax revenues stagnate and maybe even decrease as the big box store becomes the only game in town.
Many communities across the nation are dependent on sales tax, okay? Sales tax, and so communities start to mainline that sales tax and they go, okay, this is now economic development. So they're trying to pull retail development, especially Walmart, into their economic development strategies because it's the tax dollars that they're addicted to.
This quick fix has many communities believing that they must attract corporate chains to stay alive. But in historic Santa Fe, New Mexico, they've come up with a simpler, homegrown solution.
We say take the 10% challenge. If you just move 10% of your income to a local business where previously you were doing at a business that was leaving town, you would increase the tax revenue here in Santa Fe by $6.6 million. Where those dollars are spent are vital, and you can vote right today, this afternoon, on where you're going to eat lunch by supporting your neighbor. That money is going to recycle in Santa Fe or in your local community very strongly, and that's a vote.
One state over, we're shocked to see what happens when a community can't keep local dollars in town.
7:23 p.m. and we really like to just settle down for the evening because we have another long drive to Austin tomorrow. So we pray we can find a decent independent hotel that'll allow our farting dog and us to have a good night's sleep. And there is the Siesta Inn. And where was the Siesta Inn? I think downtown Brownfield, Texas got hit by a nuclear bomb. My gosh.
I don't think I've ever seen a downtown this dead before. I know we've hit some little ghost towns and some empty places, but I think this is a town of 12,000 people and other little communities all around, and this downtown is really nicely bricked and some cute shops, a lot of historic buildings, and it's just empty. It looks like a ghetto. Now, down the road we have the main strip, of course, and it's got Burger King, McDonald's, Subway, all this stuff, but downtown is, it's actually kind of creepy.
Hey, if worst comes to worst, there's the Hong Kong buffet.
No!
Oh, damn. Okay, where's that Mexican place? So I think that's kind of what we're gonna have. There's Pizza Hut, and there's Subway, and I don't blame anybody for going there tonight. And how was your meal?
That is how my meal was. The half roll did not apply today.
Pleasant surprise?
Yes, it was a very pleasant surprise. The coffee is excellent.
Great.
In Austin, Texas, they've taken Santa Fe's 10% challenge to an extreme. Here, where George W. Bush was once governor, corporate chain America took a beating as residents decided they wanted to keep Austin weird. It all started with two local favorites. Waterloo Records, considered to be one of the most successful independent music stores in America, and Book People. Until the mid-1990s, it was the biggest bookstore in the country. But even as an independent, it's considered one of the top booksellers nationwide. The corporate chain challenger? Borders Books. It was planning to open its superstore right across the street from Waterloo Records and Book People. And this profitable corporation was doing so at the behest of the city itself, which had offered it a set of financial incentives. Book People and Waterloo Records cried foul over this uneven playing field, and they prepared for war.
I didn't want to be involved with a kind of whiny, poor me kind of deal, so I wanted to see what I could do that would be more or less positive and that would help compete with this.
So they hired this man to study the economic impact of chains versus mom and pop. And he discovered a formula that would give local activists across America hope and inspiration in their own battles against the chains.
Locally owned merchants, nearly invariably, as far as we can tell, have much stronger local linkages. That is, they put money into the local economy in the most direct and valuable way possible, which is paying people to come and work. And then probably more importantly, the owners live in this community.
How mom and pop benefit the local economy is called the multiplier effect. Austin presents an excellent example. If you go and spend $100 at the big box store, some of that money stays in the community to pay employees and sales tax. But corporate chains centralize their services, so a lot of that money ends up thousands of miles away in the hands of shareholders and with big city advertising, accountancy, and law firms. But as Waterloo Records and Book People discovered, spending that same $100 at a mom and pop store can benefit the local economy up to 3.5 times more. Essentially, what you have spent multiplies throughout the town. That's because almost all that revenue stays inside the community as mom and pop purchase their services and supplies from other local businesses. And then those providers, lawyers, accountants, commercial artists, just to name a few, spend that money within the community as well. All in all, keeping your money closer to home.
That was a dramatic finding.
Borders canceled its planned superstore. Even Barnes & Noble shut down one of its chain bookstores in the University District. As this big box battle helped Austin residents realize what it meant to invest in their community by shopping at independent businesses.
A lot of Americans are no longer really citizens of their community. They are essentially consumers, and they're transients, and they choose to live in communities that are the same in Atlanta or Austin or suburban Vancouver. You can find the same community, the same house, the same stores. In a very mobile population, I don't know how much we can tell them because they don't intend to own that house in 20 years. They don't intend to invest in that community for the long haul.
Bentonville, Arkansas has a particularly successful local business that has done wonders for its community. And after Austin, it's an obvious next stop.
Without Walmart, that small business and those independent businesses wouldn't survive either. They have a positive effect. Granted, we're in the home office area. We don't have Kroger, we don't have Safeway, we don't have Albertsons, but at the same time, we have a company here that has done a lot for the betterment of this community and a lot for education and arts, and we wouldn't have that opportunity otherwise without them.
It's called Back on the Chain Gang, Walmart Day. This is where every day try to tell our people, whoever's following us, that we've done something interesting. So here's what happened to us. Okay, so we're doing this documentary about how independent businesses are doing in the corporate chain era. Walmart, what can we say? The largest company in the world. We don't shop there. Never really made the effort. Until today. The Beast of Bentonville offered us their VP of Corporate Communications, Mona Williams. A pretty good get for little ol' us, the mom and pop of filmmaking. We set up at checkout counter 15 for that wide-angle view of one of their Bentonville showcase stores, and then realized that we couldn't find a power outlet, that I didn't have an extension cord for my light. So, under the gun, minutes before the beginning of a crucial interview, miles from any other retail source, where does one find an extension cord? $9.44 later, we had a 100-foot cord and duct tape to make sure Walmart customers didn't trip over our power supply, plugged in to an independent beauty salon's outlet.
People will say that you're decimating downtowns and main streets.
I think Walmart can help small businesses not only survive, but actually thrive. We have lots of examples to show just that. I think the trick is to be adaptable and to do something that we don't do, whether it's carry merchandise that we don't carry or to carry a higher end merchandise.
I just get the feeling that Walmart has realized they need to work harder in how the world sees them. Own up, show a kinder, gentler face, and get engaged. We were quite enthralled by top executive Mona's dramatic effort to make sure she paid for her little bottle of water before she left us. We do know one thing. If Walmart were a mom and pop, she could have gotten away scot-free.
We had a successful interview with Walmart, but it has taken a lot out of us. And it's been over a month since we left home.
Thus, the stress level is high. We haven't had lunch.
And we have scotch. So who needs lunch when you have scotch? Seriously. And that is good stuff.
Thoroughly exhausted, we miss a turn and suddenly find ourselves on the interstate. Sadly, we've now broken the second cardinal rule of our expedition: no superhighways. And we pay for it, with a 3-hour pileup in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. So why not take advantage of a chance to meet our fellow travelers by the side of the road, who aren't starving like we are because they had lunch at the fast food chain restaurant back at the last exit.
You know what you're going to get when you walk in the door. You go to a restaurant that a mom and pop place, it might be very good or it might be crawling with cockroaches, and you just don't know that from the sign. And so you walk into a McDonald's and you're going to get the same thing worldwide.
I'll go to Burger. I stopped at Burger King on the way down here a while ago and got me a burger, but it was one of those big ones with the bacon and the cheese and everything on it. But you can tell I like to go buffet where you can get all you can eat.
Walmart coming to this neighborhood has made a remarkable difference for a lot of people.
It's done nothing but benefit my business.
Walmart was a great thing for our community.
At least 10,000 people a day drive by my store.
It's really awakened the west side of our town.
Even as Gastonia, North Carolina struggles to revitalize its downtown, it has 2 Walmarts that are doing so well, the company filmed a national TV ad here.
From the ground up, it's much closer to our hearts.
It gives us a real good sense of the future. Walmart will be there.
This is the store we needed as much as it needed us.
Wow. I'm stunned. I mean,
Isn't that your town?
Well, the pictures looked familiar, that's for sure. Jobs are pretty far and few between here. The mills have all closed. All of the, the things that people, the blue collar workers in the community had counted on for decades have left this area. So yes, those things are gone, and yes, there is a lot of people looking for work. I don't know who that gentleman was that said that 10,000 cars were now passing his company or his business thanks to Walmart. I mean, passing and stopping are 2 different things.
100 miles northwest of Gastonia, Marion's downtown was also on life support when manufacturing moved away. The town's leaders found out about our expedition on the internet and invite us to see how they saved Marion Center with support from the Main Street Program, a national organization that helps communities revitalize their downtowns.
We just didn't have any pride in the community. We just live here every day. We just looked at it and just forgot about how bad it looked to anybody else. And then all of a sudden, we started doing a couple of things. We redid some sidewalks, and it became infectious. And people said, this looks really cool. This is neat. And then now we have even the biggest skeptics saying, we got to participate in this because we look bad if we don't.
And she'll shop at Walmart, but so much of their stuff is made by China. And she'll shop at Walmart, but so much of their stuff is made by China. She'd rather go to one of the local stores in town and get it where it's not made from China. I mean, that's just the way she, and I admire her for that. I mean, that's great. But that's why small town stores are so great. You can walk into any store in this town, and if you're
It's a popular sentiment that we would hear throughout our trip. But somehow Marion has managed to make Walmart part of the community.
The employees at Walmart come downtown and participate in our fairs and festivals. They shop downtown. So it's a good partnership we've blended. Walmart's the 800-pound elephant. You either say, we don't want them here, and you fight them. That decision was made long before any of us were on council, and we found a way where Walmart's a good partner with the community.
I work in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and our victim witness coordinator wanted a VCR and TV, and she went up to look and see how much one cost, and Walmart donated the whole shebang.
40 days into our trip, we crossed the historic Mason-Dixon line and pass into what was once America's economic powerhouse, the Northeast.
Manufacturing jobs go to the lowest cost producer, and unfortunately the United States in many cases is not the lowest cost producer. One of our brands is called Utica Club, and it's the traditional beer that we made after Prohibition. And this beer was a fairly large beer in the 50s and 60s and declined, so it was virtually nothing. It's having a real rebound today, and the only way you can explain that is because it's this sort of anti-big business vote.
My life isn't better than my parents. I don't have a nicer house. I think about when I was a kid and growing up in the house I grew up in and looking out the window at what my parents had. I have maybe a quarter of what my parents had at the same age. So what's going to be for him? And I'm working just as hard as they are. It's
More,
just,
actually.
yeah, probably harder.
I think nowadays, maybe that kind of like middle class dream of the 50s and 60s was an anomaly.
Despite the economic gloom of the Northeast, there are still pockets where independent America is providing some hope.
Here we are crossing into another state.
Especially in tiny Vermont, whose independently spirited citizens are trying to cope with the corporate chains moving into their state.
We have very small communities and the small country stores, and it's all fairly small scale, and the large Walmart brings in a whole different spatial dimension.
We certainly hope we'll be around for a long time, but the challenges are real and great and seem to be getting greater as we go down the road. We sell a lot of work clothes, shoes, boots, stoves that we burn wood in, shovels and axes. These are either tomato cages or they're for flowers, depending on what you want to use them for.
If you're in the hardware section, you don't think you're going to find wines from around the world, but you do.
We also find Todd Murphy in the town of Barrie. He's a farmer who decided to start his own diner so he could practice his own principles of eating what he and his neighbors grow.
We'll be up to about 74 cents of every dollar that we spend for food will be spent locally.
In North America, it's said the average forkful of food travels 1,500 miles to reach our mouths, which means in this age of skyrocketing energy prices and rising tension overseas, our cheap and plentiful food supply may not be as secure as we think it is.
9/11 really showed up how precarious our lives are. How long would it take to starve out Manhattan? I think that was one thing people realized how vulnerable they are. You have to be able to feed yourself first and foremost in order to be independent. We're sourcing our food as much as we can from farmers and small-scale food producers who are within ideally 50 miles of us, and our most distant farmer is 70 miles away.
Thanks to the fresh, local offerings at the Farmer's Diner, we enjoy our best breakfast so far, before we turn west for the last stretch of our adventure. As we penetrate further into the Rust Belt of the Midwest, everything begins to look a little more desperate.
All the big department stores are gone. There's not one left, which is very sad. A lot of people don't seem to feel any sense of responsibility to the urban core of Cleveland. They expect that commercial districts like the one we're in right now are always going to be here, and that when they need to run out for a meal or a cup of coffee or a book, they only have to, walk around the corner, and they need to stop and think that if they don't patronize these businesses regularly and faithfully, that these districts won't have those shopping opportunities.
But a little further into America's traditional heartland, we've heard they're fighting hard to stay self-reliant.
God bless America, land that I love.
Independence Day, July 4th, in America's 4th of July city, Seward, Nebraska. Every 4th of July, Seward's population swells from 6,000 to 30,000 as visitors stream in to share in the festivities. It's the perfect independent American town to celebrate Independence Day, directly on our way home. Seward's downtown is free of all corporate chains, and residents like it that way.
I think it gives a sense of continuity and order and just a feeling of security. That things may change other places, but they will go slowly here.
It's a patriotic town, conservative, Christian. Those are the very same values Walmart exemplifies with its traditional small-town roots. So why are these people so worried about their new Walmart Supercenter?
I can do everything in one place, but then I feel like I've betrayed our, fellow townspeople by shopping there.
That's encouraging news for the local family that runs this independent grocery store.
We hope that the people of Seward and the surrounding areas will continue to support us, and because if they don't, we will be out.
When stores like Pack and Save shut down, it doesn't only rob a tight-knit community's shop owners of their livelihoods, it can also strengthen the growing monopoly of the handful of out-of-town corporate chain stores that now dominate American retail, like Walmart, which refuses to stock certain magazines and music it deems offensive, or Starbucks, which now sells so many CDs, it has record companies clamoring to strike deals with established mainstream performers. This lack of retail diversity could mean we're getting the same products, the same one-dimensional message from just a handful of corporations.
At Barnes & Noble, at Borders and Walmart, effectively determining 80% of the book orders in this country, you're dramatically decreasing the overall choices that we have.
So it's fitting that out where the buffalo roam, communities are taking a stand to cut their economic dependence on these powerful retailers, who have also become the biggest employers in many states as better-paying manufacturing jobs continue to move overseas.
I bring today Senate Bill 272, which is the big box store tax.
You need to pay people enough to live on. If you're not going to, then you're going to pay this tax because we need the money to cover their health insurance benefits and the other public services they consume.
Montana joins a list of at least 24 other states that want to legislate retailers whose poorly paid employees are forced to rely on public health programs. Walmart staffers are often the top beneficiaries of taxpayer-funded programs in those states.
Retail service jobs are what they are, whether you're talking about Walmart or Target or Sears or the corner bakery or the gift shop or anything else. Those jobs just don't pay as much as jobs that might require more specialized knowledge or expertise. How many folks would these states have on public assistance needing extra health care if they didn't work for Walmart? Trust me, the number would be an awful lot higher.
I think the American consumer is hoodwinked beyond belief on that issue and many others. There is a kind of corporate tyranny that it basically owns the country and owns the organs of information and continues to convince people that what's good for General Motors is good for America, to use the old phrase. It ain't necessarily so, folks.
This is the richest corporation in the world. In the world. It has an annual income larger than many nations in this world. And they have the ability to pay their workers wages, which would not require government and taxpayers to be subsidizing the health insurance.
Most of the criticism that you hear about Walmart is part of a very expensive campaign that's fueled by the unions. Make no mistake about that.
We as citizens are fully capable of taking care of ourselves, of feeding ourselves, of creating strong communities. We are not dependent on corporations, and we need to get over that idea that corporations somehow are necessary components of our lives.
That's a lesson that's not lost on Powell, Wyoming. When its local economy crashed in the 1980s, the corporate chains fled a dying, isolated town.
Our population is 5,300. That's far short of 100,000. We're 75 miles close to an interstate. We don't think that's very far at all when you live in Wild Wild West or whatever. And our direct market is 10,000, and they almost would laugh at us. Corporate America just kind of hung up on us.
No Fear, Hollister, Calvin Klein.
So Powell decided that if corporate America had no need for Powell, Powell had no need for corporate America. The town opened its own department store, the Merc. Residents bought in at $500 a share.
The people had never had the opportunity to invest in their community. And we got from all parts of life in this community, people bought stock. That's what maybe is really good about our area, the Midwest, farming, agriculture. People have always had to take care of their own problems. And I think that's just what happened here.
Could it be that Powell's self-sufficiency is a model for independent America? Other towns across the Midwest have begun to follow its example and have asked the Merck's managers to help them establish their own community-owned retail as well.
You offer the very best customer service that you can, and you meet the needs of your community.
We made money from day one. Why drive 90 miles when you can buy it right here? And that's what we're faced with.
Why don't you drive to Walmart and Colton?
I don't shop there very often. I'm sorry.
After 13,000 miles, 32 states, and 55 days, our search for independent America is coming to an end. Many believe that corporate chains have killed mom and pop, once the backbone of American community. But as we've discovered, cities and towns across the country have begun to fight back as they reach some revealing conclusions. Independent businesses help the local economy thrive. They make their towns interesting. They have helped their neighbors understand they should be citizens more than consumers. They provide hometown security, friends who can supply what their customers need in their time of need. By doing this, Mom and Pop provide the antidote to Anytown USA with Our Town USA, a self-sufficient place, independent and strongly democratic, as individuals learn to appreciate that where they shop has a direct impact on where they live. As we reach the end of our journey crossing into Washington State, we can say this from everything we've seen, everyone we've spoken to. Independent America, it's a way of life.
They'll come